How can I help you, gentlemen?
I don't really know what to say about this place.
There are certainly more rank odours, but it is revolting to discover mildew in towels. I'm certain the authorities would deem it less than hygienic. Hot and wet, a perfect breeding ground for mould. Pasteur would doubtless pay for samples of the captive bacteria.
His institute deals only in virulent and contagious forms, neither of which this is.
Perhaps, but you won't deny it is disgusting.
The gentleman will get a chill. Please turn the valve.
Just a modicum of your garden variety muck. What does this place have against regular applications of soap and water?
Well, they seem to be happy with this. Cheap or not, it's not putting them off.
Are either of you gentlemen acquainted with Mr. Thomas Pratt?
Don't believe I've had the pleasure. Have you, Dickie? No, I'm quite certain. That's Pratt I've heard of. Particular eating habits, as I recall. But Pratt, no Pratt tucked away in the old grey matter, I'm afraid. Nice chap, is he? A Neville's man, that sort of thing, what?
Moron. Perhaps the heat has addled his brain.
More likely he's simply stupid.
If these dolts are representative of the new generation of civil servants, Watson, the country is in trouble. I believe Thomas Pratt was a patron of these premises. When did you last see him?
Adrian Russell at your service. Were you thinking of joining us here at Neville's? I can make you an handsome introductory offer.
We'd like a private word about Pratt.
What are the chances? At Neville's, his privacy is my business.
Who are the men on the drying couches, Mr. Russell?
Haven't a clue.
You don't recognize your clientele?
I know a nosy Parker from a paying customer.
The premises seem lightly attended. What amenities are available here?
We have an exercise room, a steam bath, modern individual steam cabinets, and 2 invigorating cold water plunges. You could do worse.
We should like to see the baths.
Baths are baths. There are several members back there, au naturel. They don't appreciate intruders.
Perhaps we will become members, Russell. It looks a decent enough place.
Sound thought. Put colour in your frog-belly complexion, improve muscle tone, and you get to meet a nice class of person. All for a modest cost. I'll get your paperwork, shall I?
Of course, we'd need to inspect all the facilities.
Fine, but as I've said, don't pester the clients, and the bars are not available to you at the moment.
I'm not impressed with your choice of tobacco.
And the patrons don't complain.
Perhaps the smell conceals some other scent. Perhaps you are encouraging some less savoury activities here?
Leave off. What about a membership? Think you'd like to join?
When I decide I want to spend my leisure conversing with dunces while smoking bad tobacco and acquiring pestiferous skin ailments, you'll be informed.
It sounds like Holmes is interested.
Have you ever considered fumigating this place? It couldn't help but improve the atmosphere.
Members appreciate the traditional bouquet of odours. Most find comfort in familiar scents. You would also, in time.
Not if I lived 1,000 years.
Okay, before we go in, let's speak to Watson. He's always a good source of information. And commentary.
Who are the habitués of this spa, Watson?
I've heard the young Turks from Whitehall are trying to invest the place with an aura undeserved by its merits. They may be joined by old India hands who simply crave the heat.
Not a self-indulgent crowd, then?
Not necessarily.
Neville's has a appalling taste in tobacco. It's an insult to the patrons.
Men in their condition probably can't tell the difference.
Nonsense. They're enervated, Watson, not dead. Though they soon may be, given what they're smoking.
I've been drunk enough times to not give a shit about what brand of cigarettes I'm smoking. Although I haven't smoked in a few years.
How does Russell strike you, Watson?
A bully, with a patina of gentility. Your inquiry puts him in a bind. He can't boast the privacy that comes with membership, and answer your questions about Pratt without betraying what he's already sold.
I suppose I might inform him that he won't be collecting another penny from the Pratt account. Can you envision Pratt wasting away in such a place?
Without difficulty. Given the style of his digs, this would suit him down to the ground. Perhaps a little on the tame side, but suitable.
I earnestly counsel you, Watson, to touch nothing.
Your concern is appreciated, Holmes, but in this instance probably misplaced. As baths go, this one appears relatively sanitary.
As rivers go, the Thames is cleaner than the Ganges, but I wouldn't swim in either. Point?
Point taken. Sanitary was perhaps not the proper word.
I wish to visit the baths, Watson, with or without Russell's permission.
Fine. Can I help? I would say he looks a rough customer.
Force is odious when subtler leverage will suffice. I'll request a refund on my olfactory senses if the hygienic standards of this place are above reproach. It shouldn't take long to confirm my suspicion. Mr. Pratt has been found dead. He no longer requires you to protect his privacy. When did you last see him?
I can't rightly say.
Are any of Pratt's circle of acquaintances here now? How about Eldridge Whitney?
Can't really recall. I'm not in the recalling business.
Well, I have to respect him for being faithful to his clients.
If you don't mind, or even if you do, I'll canvass the other patrons.
I wouldn't, unless you like to visit the hospital.
Under ordinary circumstances, which these are not, I might respect your request. And just so we understand each other, your threat is offensive, unlawful, and, if you'll excuse me for saying so, laughable.
We'll see who laughs last, Mr. Fancy Talker.
I'm now ready to inspect the baths, Russell.
No, you're not. You've no intention of joining up.
Listen, you muscle-bound twit. Neville's is in violation of numerous tenets in the Code of Public Health. Mould, mildew, common filth are rampant. Let us pass, or I'll report these unsanitary outrages forthwith, and you'll be out of business by this evening.
You made your point. I'll try to keep it clean, but there's too much for one person to do. Can't find any decent help. I'll accompany you. And remember, don't be bothering my clients. You can't walk about unsupervised, mister.
The name is Holmes, Mr. Russell, and I not only can, I have done.
Well, not here yet.
You have been singularly unhelpful, Russell. Do you know nothing of Pratt?
Ain't seen him in days. Now, no more liberties on my patch. I got a reputation to protect.
In a moment. How about Eldridge Whitney? Does he use these premises?
No.
Could July on the Ubangi be any more unpleasant than this?
Heat appeals to many persons, Holmes.
Laplanders might be happy for the change, I suppose, but only masochists would find it pleasant.
Is anyone whose preferences are at a variance with your own by definition aberrant?
Being the supreme arbiter of right thinking and behaviour is a terrible burden, Watson. An awesome responsibility.
I'm pleased your sense of humour has not deserted you completely.
It looks suspiciously like there is someone under this tower.
Who's in the steam cabinet, Russell?
One of my regulars. Don't be bothering him. Very important man in the government.
I'm sure he is. What's his name?
His name's none of your business.
Excuse me, sir.
I said he's not to be disturbed.
Who's in the steam room? I couldn't see a bloody thing.
Nothing to do with Pratt. No need to disturb them.
Should I take your word, Russell? You haven't proved particularly trustworthy.
Wait for them to come out, then.
Life is short, Russell. I don't wait well. Then again, the heat's unbearable in there.
Justin sort his clothes, then he might walk out.
It's hotter than jockey's breeches in here.
Regular perspiration cleans a system.
So does a high colonic. I try to avoid both.
Okay. No more Mr. Nice, Sherlock.
Beg your pardon, Mr. Whitney, sir. As for you, that tears it. Bloody foreign tricks! Get me out of this muck!
Bajitsu is hardly a trick, Mr. Russell. Watson, make certain Mr. Russell remains aquatic. I've had enough of his interference.
With pleasure, Holmes.
No more Mr. Nice John either.
A fortuitous meeting, Mr. Whitney. I am Sherlock Holmes. After you've replaced my towel, you might ask if I care. Considering your position, Whitney, you might curb your impertinence long enough to discover my purpose. Your purpose is of no interest. If you continue to harass me, I will take steps. Naked and enervated? Excuse me, but I doubt your capacity for action. As your attendant is occupied, let's talk about the formula missing from your reading room.
That is a ministry matter. You have no claim to my cooperation, and your brother's obvious indiscretion may be actionable.
My brother's judgment is not likely to be challenged. Yours, on the other hand...
Save your threats. They are ignorant and rude. I speak only on the authority of my superiors, of whom you are not one.
At the moment, you are not accused, Whitney. I'm simply trying to gather information.
You'll get none from me. I know my rights and my duties.
I'll ask you once to reconsider your intransigence.
You waste your breath.
No, my speech perhaps, my patience certainly. My brother nearly killed, and you stand on some inflated idea of your own importance. You fatuous twit. We'll see whose breath is wasted.
Okay. It's obvious that he's not going to talk.
Now, Mr. Whitney, please share your observations and suspicions about the formula's theft.
Do your worst, Mr. Holmes. I am accustomed to long hours in the heat.
Now, is this torture? Surely this is torture.
You will not trifle with me, Whitney. Tell me what you know.
I recognize extortion when I see it. This is not a joke. I'm having trouble breathing.
You'll have to do better than state the obvious.
I had no part in the initial disappearance. It was not my responsibility. I do my job very well. I know nothing about this.
But if pressed, innocent as you are, you might speculate about the guilty party?
Yes. Question the ratchet woman, the Char. She is an internationalist. Have no idea why she's kept on. Could you turn down the heat?
A small taste of Hades for you, I should imagine. Go on.
Many times I've mentioned security is very lax, very slipshod. She could walk off with anything. The heat, Mr. Holmes, could you?
Where might I find Mrs. Ratchet?
She lives in some East End hovel.
The East End is vast. Where exactly?
Pratt would know. Well, ask Sir Avery. He's palsy with her. Is it any wonder respect for the British Empire is on the wane? She's the Char. I ask you, I mean, for heaven's sake, I don't take tea with a woman.
Fortunate for her. Describe her, please.
She's a plain woman.
Brilliant. Colouring, height, weight, facial shape, teeth, distinguishing characteristics?
Who notices such things about the Char?
If you don't want to be parboiled, you better have noticed something.
On her tea breaks she reads. Everything. Reading all the time, classified documents for all I know. And it makes her squint badly. Probably needs spectacles. Are my eyes starting to bulge?
Not to worry, Mr. Whitney. You're a fine shade of lobster pink. When did you last see Thomas Pratt?
I truly can't recall. Except when we pass in the hall or exchange duties at the desk. We had only Nevilles in common. Turn down the heat, will you?
Thomas Pratt has been found dead, Mr. Whitney.
You don't say. Well, nihil nisi bonum de mortuis, but I suspect he had numerous unfortunate habits and the associations to match.
Would you care to elaborate on that obloquy?
The truth defames no one. He was an unhappy man, and I'm sure he indulged in drugs. Died by his own hand, did he?
Hardly. He was assassinated. To punish him and complicate his identification, his face was obliterated. The bullet nearly blew his head off.
Why?
Because he knew something he should not have known. If you're involved in anything you shouldn't be, have a care, Mr. Whitney. Can you conceive of a connection between Pratt's murder and the stolen formula?
There isn't one.
How can you be sure?
I didn't just fall off the back of a turnip wagon. I am mentally acute.
That is palpably false, but for the moment I'll assume you're simply ignorant of the connection. Our conversation thus far has been neither difficult nor painful. It can become both, if you insist.
I have nothing more to say to you on any subject. Just replace my towel and leave.
Replace his towel? What about turning the heat down?
There are few things I appreciate less than being lied to, Mr. Whitney.
I'll try to remember that.
Test my patience and I'll make certain you never forget it.
I think that's it. Yes, it is. So we can't actually remove the brush? We can turn the valve down though. It's still bad enough for leaving it in there. Okay, we are done here. Let's go and inform Lord Lawton.
Jenkins, I need to speak with Lord Lawton again.
If I disturb him without cause, Mr. Holmes, he won't come out, you won't get in, and I'll be sacked. He's in that foul a mood since the last time.
Please show me in. I have tragic news for Lord Lawton.
Did his favourite nag break a leg?
A colleague of his named Pratt has been found murdered.
Young Master Thomas. I am sorry. He was a nice boy, troubled but kind. In the old lord's day, he was often here. Haven't seen him in years.
We will be waiting for a while. The only way to trigger this is by leaving the area. Technically leaving the area.
No, my lord, I will not. Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, my lord.
My position requires further reflection. Billiards is fascinating, don't you think?
He's still playing the same game. Has he even taken one shot yet?
I'm sorry to inform you that your friend Thomas Pratt has been found dead.
Really? How unlucky. We were at Cambridge together, but I barely knew him. You might as well offer your condolences to the ministry char. How did he die? Heart failure?
Yes, it stopped. After he was shot. Twice. In the face.
Pity. He had such a beautiful face.
And a rose tattoo on his backside.
I'm sure I don't know, though I'm not surprised you do. Your type specializes in the nether regions.
Your colleague should know of Pratt's condition and other developments. Where might I find Sir Avery Fanshawe?
He took Brumwell's old pile in Chelsea. Wife is infatuated with redecorating. He'll be riveted by the news, if you can wake him.
And Philip Bledsoe?
Haven't a clue. Heard the unsociable lout has chambers in Gray's Inn.
How about the clerk, Eldridge Whitney? Do you know anything of his whereabouts away from work?
The pathetic sod keeps a cot at the ministry, uses a public bath as his dressing room.
What do you think is the connection between Pratt's murder and the formula's disappearance?
There is no connection whatsoever.
I must now decide whether you are remarkably unimaginative or a liar. Perhaps both.
I don't have to tolerate insults in my own home.
I'm sorry, tact has deserted me. There is no doubt that Pratt's execution and the theft of the formula are related, Lord Lawton. If Pratt was not the thief, he knew who was.
So you say. The problem is, no one, your brother included, has conclusively proved that the formula was stolen.
What a surprise. The body charged with making that determination cancelled its inquiry almost as soon as it began. I ask again why the investigation was terminated.
There is no need to make mountains from molehills. Bring the ministry into disrepute every time some papers are mislaid. Go there yourself. You have my permission. You'll see what sort of place it is. Despite your brother's efforts, it's not terribly well ordered.
You expect the formula to turn up, then?
I think it probable. Well, it's a definite possibility at the very least. A clerk may have misplaced it, or the char, or one of the members. Stop grilling me and go bother them, or better, return to your own affairs.
Just so you know, Lawton, the discovery of the formula would not complete this investigation. We are far beyond the resolution of a simple theft. You neglect this fact at your peril.
If you want someone to bully, bother Fanshawe. Or Silverbridge, he initiated the call for termination. Rake him over the coals. I have nothing more to say.
I don't think that he does have anything more to say. So let's go.
Your employer was less than forthcoming about Mr. Pratt, Jenkins. I wonder if I might have a private word.
Possibly. Highly irregular, probably disloyal, but possibly. I liked that boy.
I'll tell you of Mr. Pratt's demise. In return, you could answer some questions and let me look about.
Lord Lawton will be out with Lady Lockridge later.
Fine. I'll return.
I'll trade for information about Master Pratt, but there's a higher cost for telling tales out of school and giving you the run of the house. You play a decent game of billiards?
I have a passable game. I'm not really...
I'm a devotee, but one can always improve. If you can teach me a lesson, we could have a chinwag afterward. If you can't, I'm mum. That's the deal, agreed?
You seem quite sure of the outcome.
As sure as the Lord Chief Justice wears a wig. Be in the limelight with the lads at the academy when I tell him I had you over a barrel here.
Is Lord Lawton a music aficionado?
Very devoted to euterpe and terpsichore. Music's the only thing we have money for nowadays. Cylinders, scores, stands, new felt piano tuning and the like.
Perhaps we should return to 221B for reflection.
I'm sure I could use some refreshment.
Perhaps you might stand in my place at the table. You wield a decent cue.
You take neither pleasure nor honour in playing me. It's you he wants.
In that case, I wonder if Jock Mahoney still holds court at St. Bernard's. He may know Jenkins.
As I recall, you two didn't part the best of mates.
True, but I don't hold a grudge.
Oh yes, Jock Mahoney was in the first game. And yes, we didn't part mates. This should be fun. I haven't played billiards in about 20 years or more, so I have no idea what the rules are anymore.